Hey everyone, welcome to Jay's Quick Thoughts, and today I wanted to talk about Disney's latest live-action remake news. Apparently the Tangled live-action remake is in hiatus, which is an interesting development. A few weeks ago, Tiana's series got axed, and it looks like there's another princess on the chopping block. So this article's by The Hollywood Reporter. It says Disney's live-action reimagining of its 2010 animated film focused on the Brothers Grimm fairy tale heroine has been put on pause, according to studio insiders. The project had been in active development, with The Greatest Showman helmer Michael Gracie on board to direct, and the script by Jennifer Caitlin Robinson from Thor: Love and Thunder. The pause occurs in the wake of the rather underwhelming release of Disney's live-action adaptation of Snow White. So it does look like they're blaming Snow White specifically for the remake falling through, which could be interesting, I guess, as a development. They are going forward with Lilo and Stitch. I was surprised that it came out so quickly after Snow White, which does lead into the theory that they wanted to skip past Snow White as quickly as possible and move on to the next animated remake. So maybe they're gonna put the pause on like princess animated remakes specifically and just go on to their other film library. They are coming out with a live-action Moana remake, which features The Rock, and they're also doing a third Moana movie. So maybe it's just because Moana did do so well at the box office that they want to focus on her. I do think that Snow White didn't have to be as controversial as it ended up being if they had just gone about promoting the film in a more respectful and less combative way, I guess. Because like I've said multiple times, they didn't really say anything about Snow White that they haven't already said about other live-action Disney princesses, but I think it's just that they were so negative and so in your face about it that it ended up causing a lot of backlash, among other issues like the dwarves and so on and so forth. But yeah, I guess we could just continue on right now. So it says the movie has grossed only $69 million domestically and $145 million worldwide on a production budget of $270 million. Ouch. So yeah, they lost a lot of money. The budget inflated due to the 2023 labor strikes. Yeah, this is not a good time for Disney. The film was plagued by controversial headlines from the start due to casting and creative choices, and then into its press tour due to social media posts from star Rachel Zegler. I would also put Gal Gadot in there too, personally, but that's just me. To be honest, I feel like Disney themselves agree with what Rachel said, and it was just that it wasn't a problem until fans reacted the way they did, and then they kind of just threw her under the bus. But really, Disney has been using these live action remakes to fix their originals to begin with for quite a while, and she was just kind of the most awkward with how she addressed it. So I don't really think it was fair to put everything on Zegler when she and Disney were clearly in agreement until it went viral, and now all of a sudden Disney's like distancing themselves from her, when really this is their failure too, in my opinion. Plus Disney themselves made a lot of bad choices too. Like, they're the ones who made the call to make the CGI dwarves. Like, yeah, Peter Dinklage complained, but that's how they chose to address that? They basically did this to themselves more than, anybody else. Like, at the end of the day, this is still a Disney movie and a Disney property, and they're the ones who made these choices. And I'm not saying that Zegler doesn't have any part in this. She does. She absolutely does. I'm just saying, it was a team effort. Okay, anyway. But Snow White didn't fare well with the critics nor audiences, the latter of which have given it a B+ cinema score. Anything outside of an A rate is considered unsatisfying, especially for a Disney movie, I'm sure. It currently only has a 50% on review aggregator Metacritic. So yeah, basically they're saying that Snow White flopped, and now they're going to pull back on Tangled. When Disney started with these live action remakes, like Alice in Wonderland or Cinderella, they were very well received. They made a lot of money at the box office, and I think had they played their cards right, they probably could have kept that momentum going, but they started pumping them out. I mean, we're getting 2 this year, and it became pretty obvious that these were soulless cash grabs, and they were using them to try to fix the originals because they were following a misguided view of the originals, in my opinion. But I do think had they played their cards right, things would be going a lot better for them now. At this point, their last few live action remakes remakes haven't been performing that well. If they had been making these live action remakes once every few years or so, they probably wouldn't be so hated now. They could have kept making their animated movies instead of more or less abandoning them at this point. Like in 2026, we're not getting any new material from Disney, and we haven't gotten an animated movie since Wish, which was very half-baked and disappointing, and it's sad to see Disney fall so far. I know there are people that are basically rooting for these companies to go under, but honestly, I would rather see like another Disney Renaissance or something. But I do think Disney could have potentially had their cake and eaten it too, but instead they dropped the ball. Anyway, let's get back to the article. It remains uncertain whether Tangled will move forward down the road or undergo a creative rethink. Since the early 2010s, Disney has embarked on a live-action feature strategy that relied heavily on returning to its library and repurposing its old titles. Some of the features worked incredibly well: Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, and these are all, they made over $1 billion. And they're comparing that to Dumbo and Pete's Dragon, which to be fair are probably not Disney's heaviest hitters, but still. Recently, Barry Jenkins' Mufasa The Lion King had a slow start with a $35.4 million domestic opening before picking up steam. There's another typo here. It says steaming. They meant to say steam, but I guess everyone makes mistakes. Do these news sites bother proofreading their articles? I'm just saying. Oh, whatever, moving on. And ending up with an impressive $718 million globally. Before this, The Little Mermaid earned a tepid $570 million, and I'm willing to bet they lost money with The Little Mermaid too. But regardless, Snow White seemed to test the limits of that strategy. And, I think that it's all just starting to really build up now, and we're seeing people just get kind of fed up with these remakes. The coming 15 months will offer 2 more live-action remakes to gauge audiences' appetite, and each one has glimmers that offer Disney reason to believe they'll be successful. Lilo and Stitch, a remake of a 2002 animated film, surfs into theaters May 23rd, again very close to the release date for Snow White, which is very suspect, but here we are. During this year's Super Bowl game, the spot featuring Stitch crashing the field generated 173.1 million views in 24 hours, making it Disney's most viewed spot digitally. The trailer also became the second most viewed Disney live-action trailer of all time. And to be fair, I do think that movie looks pretty good for a live-action Disney remake. Granted, I still think the original A doesn't need a remake, and B will probably still be better, but still, it didn't look bad. Also, Stitch is a very endearing character, so I wouldn't be surprised if that one does pretty good. I don't know if it'll break $1 billion, but still, it's probably gonna blow Snow White out of the water. Meanwhile, the live-action Moana is set to sail July 10th, 2026. That film has the benefit of being based on one of the biggest movies streaming on Disney+, surpassing 1.4 billion hours, which Disney has pointed out is equivalent to streaming the film over 735 million times, or playing the Grammy-winning Oscar-nominated song How Far I'll Go on repeat for more than 50,000 years. Okay, I'm not sure if you needed to go to all that detail, but whatever. Yeah, so it seems like they're, they recognize that Moana is kind of this cash cow. So now they're going to push her out, even if that means that we're probably going to get content that's lower quality than it really should be and that Moana deserves, considering Moana 2 was underwhelming in the story department. But it still grossed $1 billion, which they point out here. The third highest grossing film of 2024. Yeah, I just hope that Moana 3 is better than Moana 2. I'm sure it will be because they're actually going to start from the beginning as a movie instead of just taking what was supposed to be a Disney Plus animated series and then chopping it up to be a movie, which cut out a lot of context and a lot of plot. That would have helped a lot, but I'm not entirely sure if kids even recognize that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just hope that Moana 3 is better. But admittedly, my expectations aren't really high considering the fact that this is coming out like 2 years after Moana 2 did, so I'm still expecting it to be undercooked. Maybe not half-baked or as bad as Moana 2, but still. Anyway, Tangled's pause also comes as some of the architects of Disney's live-action feature strategy have exited the studio's executive ranks, and a new infusion has taken place, so that's interesting. It looks like there's a changing of the guard going on right now, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but hopefully they'll be a little less corporate about their their movies. That would be nice. But I don't know if these are, passionate creatives or just more suits. In February, Daria Sursek was named the head of the live-action theatrical films, reporting to David Greenbaum, president of Disney Live Action and 20th Century Studios, who replaced Sean Bailey last year. And then the article just kind of ends, which is kind of anticlimactic, I guess. But yeah, I guess Snow White was overall a pretty massive failure, which I'm not surprised by. I don't think anybody is. But it looks like Rapunzel is gonna get shelved because of it, at least for now. If we're being honest, that's probably for the best. While it would be nice for Disney to course correct and learn from Snow White, I feel like they're probably not going to, which is unfortunate because I would love to see another Disney Renaissance, but at that time they had some very passionate people working at the studio, and it just feels like ever since Bob Iger took over, they have really let themselves go. In my opinion, I know I keep saying that, but I just want to clarify that, I'm just a YouTuber. And that's my opinion. So, yeah, what do you think about them shelving Tangled? Do you think it's for the best, or do you think it's a little disappointing? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you next time. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members: Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Equestron, Norman Sweet Cream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Bam, Lucas Geist, J Draws, Meowsers, Sky, Philip, Isaac Martinez, Garcia XV Legend, Tobias Weller, Bandito Bane, Mac B909, Dakari the Professor, Todd McCaffrey, Omni Fair, General Bolivar, Cavalcoj, Strider Exile, Phil C, Killer Bomb, Slawa Saporiguez, Entwined Boot 301, Griffin of Might, Frankie Camarillo, Datadyne Executive, Crimson Phantom, Jin the Goblin, Papa Hud 69, The Gengar King, and Daunter. Thank you for the support, and if you want to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.